the big lesson is that your typesetter writes your book. You don't write your book. If you think that you write your book, you're wrong. The person that puts it into Adobe InDesign and designs it, that is the person that's in charge of writing your book. It might say your name, like I'm holding up the Degree Freeway right here. It might say my name, Hannah's name on the outside of here, but this is the guy that we hired to typeset. Like that's actually who authored this book. And that's the person that is in charge of the final product that you see, or not in charge, but rather if you don't catch some of their mistakes, your manuscript could be clean, which is, and I'll go into this now, I guess, which is I gave him a really, really clean manuscript. What I mean by clean is that literally I went through that thing 5 or 6 times, both books. It took me hours upon hours. It took me days of work. I mean, this is 100 pages each. So I literally read every single line, make sure that there was no typos, make sure that it all flowed correctly, make sure there was no double periods, no double spaces, all of that type of stuff. And I was like, okay, here you go, dude. I just need you to make this into Adobe InDesign. Do this exact thing, but just put it in Adobe InDesign. And I was like, how hard can that be? Really hard, apparently.
As it turns out. Ta-da! Now you know.
And a lot of it, and this was my failure, is that I had a lot of formatting. So in this book, you'll see when you purchase it, there's a lot of boxes. There's a lot of call out boxes. There's a lot of images and dividers and headings and stuff like that. And that's just to make it a little bit easier to read. I went ahead and I did all of those. I made all of those things thinking that it was going to be easier for this person. Do this exact thing just over there. And it wasn't until we got the first round back. Do you remember getting the first round back? I don't know if you looked at it.
I did. And I was just like, my mouth was hanging up and I was just like, what? If it sounds like I'm frustrated right now, it's because I am. It's because we wrote a brief for this person that was so specific and so clear that even I could have used it to typeset, even though I've never used Adobe InDesign in my life. It was very clear. And Ryan proofed it. It was very orderly. It's do this, do this, do this. And they just did whatever they want. So they just did whatever they felt that day, I guess. And we got it back and we went, this doesn't look remotely like the instructions that we gave you, to the point where I don't even think they read them. And then it proceeded to be a, 6 to 8 week long battle to get them to put it the way it was supposed to be. Because every time they would send it back and they would sometimes fix the things, but sometimes not. And then every single time they would also sometimes make new mistakes that had nothing to do with the original mistakes. And I will say, Ryan took this on himself and he read both copies every single time, multiple times, every time there was a revision needed. And that's why it took forever, because they kept continually creating new mistakes.
Yeah. And I think it was 100% is on us. The whole process is on us. We self-publish and we're the boss. 1, we shouldn't have hired this person. 2, we should have fired them quicker, regardless of the amount of money. And I'm just talking to you now. The
Just
amount of
gotten a new person.
Yes. Regardless of the amount of money that we paid, even though we paid him a lot of money, we hired him from 99 Designs. And what we should have done is we should have just said, okay, that's a drop in the bucket, whatever, that's fine. And we just go with a different person. And then we can fight with him about getting a refund or whatever, or just not, it doesn't matter.
But when we've got the first version back and saw it was that bad, we should have been like, no, new guy.
And then this is just like a lesson learned for you. We've never talked about this before. I think going forward, if that ever happens again.
Or just give them the money and just find somebody who will actually do the work.
Right, because this thing was really bad. The brief didn't even matter at the same time, although the brief was solid. I read that thing, I edited that thing, and I was like, I looked at it, I was like, okay, this is a solid brief. And then the thing that on top of a solid brief is that he had a very solid, clean manuscript. I was like, do this exact thing. Don't change a thing. Just do this in Adobe InDesign. And he literally didn't do any of it. He just put in whatever he wanted. And it took literally 5 revisions. 5 times I had to review it before it even remotely looked what it was supposed to look like. And like I said, any one of those revisions, I should have said what I just said, which is we should have hired somebody else. That was your money, whatever. Here's a 1-star review. We just hire somebody else to do it, because it extended our project by literally months.
Yeah. And you guys, we were so excited when we sent it to the typesetter. We had so much hope. We were like, oh, well, in 4 days.
Yeah. Well, that's the original quote that he gave us.
Yeah. He said 4 days this would be done. It took almost 8 weeks. So obviously we're still pretty bitter about this, but mostly because we misjudged and I hired poorly, and that will not happen again, because that's what we're going to do.
The typesetter, it came back astonishingly. It came back with a whole bunch of double periods. It came back with misspelled words. It came back with double spaces.
When there had been none.
Yeah. I was like, what is going on? The headings were all off. I literally spent days.
There's missing worksheets, even though we had labeled inside, put the worksheet here in capital letters.
Yeah, exactly. I literally spent days doing this, and I knew it was clean. I was like, dude, this is like crazy.
Yeah.
Anyway, for everybody that is going, especially the self-publish route, I'm sure that publishers have different fail safes for this. And they also have more professional people, I'm sure, on staff, or otherwise you'd probably get fired, which is what we should have done. If you're going to go this way, just know that the typesetter writes your book.
Yeah.
The typesetter is in charge of your final product, because if we didn't go back and forth 19 times with this guy, you would get this book and you would be like, man, Ryan and Hannah, this is like really bad.
Yeah, this is embarrassing. It would have made us look really, really bad.
This is embarrassing. Although that's not the words
That's
that
not
we
what
wrote.
we gave them.
That's not what we gave them. But it's the end product that you see. I think that was the biggest challenge, and I wanted to kind of start there.